Hi, this is Will Smith coming at you from British Columbia. It's Monday, August 25th, and I've just got a couple of things that I want to get off my chest today. I know I have a different point of view from, I guess, most people. I have chats with my friends, and I know that I think about things. I don't see the world the way they do. And I guess the main thing is, I'm not really worried about survival now. Ever since Dr. Sansone looked at me while I was watching an interview and said, "You're going to die. Get over it." I really took that to heart. That we're all threatened with death every day. I think that we're in the war of the worlds. That humans have never seen anything like this probably, unless we look back in antiquity and reinterpret some of the events that happened back there. But anyway, I think things are really heating up, and things are going to change very rapidly from here on out. I don't know who the players are. I don't know. There are people identifying. I mean, Catherine Austin Fitts, who I followed even when I was trading, she's saying that it's extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence anyway. I don't know. I just want to stay sane, live the rest of my life, and figure out what I should be doing to increase my own consciousness. And so I just want to tell you what I'm doing. Whether that's the right thing for you to do or not is up to you to decide. I think we're in an initiation, and some people have some things to do, and other people have other things to do. Today, I'm going to show you this book. It's by a fellow Substacker, Lisa Miron, or probably it's Myron. Anyway, this book is very interesting. The way it's organized is that she's got 4 sections. The first one is Part 1, Medical Speech, Let's Disturb the Sound of Silence. Then Part 2 is, let's see here, sorry. Part 2, Legal and Political Aspects. Part 3, Woke Ideology, Social Credit. And then Part 4 is Emergency Powers. So some of these chapters I'm familiar with, and some of them I'm not. But one of the things that you have to get familiar with the table of contents right away, because there are no page numbers on the table of contents. There are page numbers inside the book, but not on the table of contents. So what I do is I look at the table of contents and see what I want to read, and I see where that is, and then I just kind of go, oh, that's about 2/3 of the way through, and I open it up there, and there's something I can relate to. So anyway, she's come out with another article today about how the target for extinction is, more than anything else, the human female. And I mean, this is not something that I like to talk about. First of all, there's all this stuff about gender now, and so you risk stepping on somebody's toes if you mention anything about gender. And I certainly don't like to do that. I think you should just do whatever you want. I don't think that you should be allowed to do that to your children, but I think you should be allowed to do whatever you want to your body. If you want to modify your body, we have this technology now, so it's expected that people will want to change something about the way they look or the way they are. So I'm not speaking against any of these ideologies. I just have a suspicion that there's another agenda. And Lisa does too. That's the section on woke ideology and that sort of thing. And it's really very clearly delineated. You can read, she's got a lot of references in there to what people are saying. But what came out recently, to me, that jumped out was there was an article about how somebody in New England wanted to make it easier for women, young women, children, in my way of looking at it, to have hysterectomies. And again, I don't think anybody should keep you from having a hysterectomy if that's what you want, but you should be an adult before you have that radical an operation done, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a woman, so I can't make the judgment, but I certainly wouldn't say anything about that. But what I do see also is I have the blessing or curse, whichever you want to call it, of going through some kind of a personal transformation, and it's a physical, there are physical changes going on in my body. So I know I'm being worked on, and I have to figure out what those are, and it's not easy. I mean, like, I was in the hospital in late 2020 to have hip replacement surgery, and I started vibrating, and then I didn't need surgery. I mean, they didn't see it that way. They thought I still needed surgery, but they didn't want to do anything to me because they thought I was on I was on some recreational drug or something. The neurologist said that twice. We're trying to figure out what you're coming down off of. So I just figured out, like, yesterday or something, I was lying around and I was thinking about that time that I spent, and I got all excited because, or motivated, I guess is the right word to use. I was just thinking, how can this be? What's actually going on? Why is my whole body vibrating, and especially my hips? And I just realized yesterday or Saturday, my body is trying to tell me that I can heal myself. I can vibrate and heal myself. And so I did work on that a little bit, but I didn't really think about it as an intention that I should learn to vibrate more and be able to focus the vibrations. But now since I've been playing with these, experimenting with these little sound modules, and I found that if I set up a bisomatic beat of 7.83 hertz in the air, so that this whole place where I am right now is vibrating, then I can get into the vibrational state very quickly. And one thing is, not many people, I guess, know about the vibrational state. And of course, it doesn't really fit in with medicine. That's the problem. I'm sure that, you know, the typical thing that I experience here is I'm an inferior person, so I need to be cajoled, or I don't know, there's some good words that I want to use, but I can't think of them. Anyway, and I've been listening to different music with my body for 20 years, and so I have a different view of the way things work. And also, I don't know, I've only started reading medical papers in the past 5 or 10 years. But I do have a book here. This one is called Vibrational State and Energy Resonance. I think I've mentioned it before. It's by a Brazilian woman named Nancy Trivolato. And so, of course, and she doesn't have a PhD. So, of course, no doctor in Canada is going to pay any attention to her. I saw the way they interact with women in the hospital. So, it's an interesting thing, though, because if you read this book, you can learn to get into the vibrational state, and then you can start experimenting with it. It's a different state. It's a little bit daunting when you first get into it, because your body is vibrating all over, and you wonder what's going on, what's happening to me. But it's not really that, it's not dangerous or anything. I mean, you can read. I've had some books that talk about it. The classic Journeys Out of the Body by Robert Monroe. He talks about getting into the vibrational state. He talks about all sorts of interesting things. He talks about having sex in the astral and things like that. It's a different realm, But I actually think that that's what we're being pushed into right now. I like to make it, I like to call it phasing instead of astral travel. I read a Russian book called The Phase. It's by Mikhail Raduga. And Raduga means rainbow. Anyway, you can read that book. His whole life is dedicated to how to do that, and he's taught people all over the place. I think he moved to LA and taught the police, some police officers how to do it even. So anyway, that's another book. There's a book, there are all sorts of books that do mention this. There's a book on shape-shifting that I used to have, that before you shape-shift into an animal, then you have to enter the vibrational state. And that was putting leaving your consciousness, leaving your body and going into an animal that's in your field, that's in where you are. So this is something that's known, but it's not known by people that could proliferate it and get other people interested in it. I mean, the audience for shape-shifting is fairly small. I've never wanted to do it until I read about that vibrational state, and I won't tell you about that. But anyway, the thing that I do want to talk about a little bit more is I got downloaded with these things quite a while ago, at 2018, 2017. I started getting these downloads about how these things work. And for me, I just look at something sometimes and it just pops into my head. And I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, how do I know? For example, I read the news today, and Canada's going to spend another $2 billion sending troops to Ukraine. And the first thing that pops into my head is, oh, so people are going to be even hungrier than they are now. There's going to be more inflation. And probably they're moving the troops from Canada into Europe to get them out of the way so we can have a nice little Anschluss here at some point. But I don't know. I mean, I can't help it. It just pops into my head. So one time I'm looking at this picture of an anatomy picture. This is probably 7 years or more ago. And it was the female reproductive system. And it was a really beautiful picture, artistic rendering of drawing of the system. And I just look at that, and my background is electronics and radios, things like that, computers. And it just popped into my head. This is a biphase pranic resonator that can be used to directly control the cymatic hologram of reality. And then I got all sorts of things that sort of, once I got that our solar plexus region, a woman's solar plexus region, is the beginning of her energy, and it has to be it has to be activated, though it's not here yet. But at that point, there's a total shift in who's boss, because the power of a woman, a female with that type of apparatus, would be 10,000 times greater. I just pulled that number out of the life and teachings of the Masters of the Far East, because it's a number that's mentioned there as to how great the power is that can be emitted from the body of a human. So there are just all sorts of things that are adding to this. This idea that the women need to be killed off tells me, there's a male energy, there's a very strong male energy involved in this takeover of the planet. And so it looks to me like, I don't know, maybe it's something like the Matrix. There are these humans, but they can be instantly hijacked by another consciousness. I mean, that makes sense to me, because I don't see AI as being something new. I see AI as being the perfect exhibition of what AI is very easy to see in two different places. in our languages and in our governments. And if you think about what a government is, it's really a program. If this, then do this. If this, do this. Start doing this and do it over and over again until this happens. It's a list of instructions. And humans basically aren't like that. I mean, we get together in groups up to 100 and we can get along. But when we get to larger group sizes, we need to organize it and create some kind of a hierarchy, or at least we think we do. So hierarchy is an interesting word because it comes from Greek, and it comes from a word that means, I think it means watcher, and it's the same root as archon. So those words may say something to you. Anyway, these things that are happening now, the women have to be gotten out of the way because the women are getting activated. I don't know, I see some kind of a sequence here of the male energy has to kind of throw in the towel at some point and say, okay, we can't do this. But what that actually looks like, I don't know, and my my clairvoyant lens is cloudy on that one. But what I do see is that it's really important for women who want to activate this crystal body that is developing now inside us, inside some people anyway, has to be activated and felt. So I can feel the things going on in my body, and I can feel some of the new I don't know, there's secretions, there's different things going on, and I have orgasms in my cranial cavity, so something's going on up there. So I just don't think, I think that there's something that you've got to pay attention to is that we have a great body. We have a story right now that we tell ourselves that this body somehow just made itself. But what if it's not really like that? What if this is really a trainer? What if this is, well, the way I think of it myself is it's a quantum carbon crystal, liquid crystal interface. So it has all these quantum things going on in the organelles of the cells. John Lilly talks about that. I hope to read that out loud to you at some point from Tanks for the Memories. That's why you get into this state where in a flotation tank is what he would use, but we can do it in meditation too if we practice it enough. But where we actually can access those quantum things that are going on in the cells. So our five senses are inactive, and our sense of self, instead of coming from those five senses where we're located and what we see and what we hear and what we feel, comes in from the quantum field. And this is something that we've lost in our modern culture, but it's very obvious that it used to be quite important. If you watch I think it's on Gaia, there's a interview of Regina Meredith and Freddie Silva. I'm pretty sure it's Freddie Silva, one of these guys that lines up things and sees where the stars go at different dates. On the island of Sardinia, I think there's somewhere between 20 and 30,000 dark retreat type caves. And if you read Montauk Chia, you can find out that if you go into a dark cave for more than 3 days, your pineal starts emitting DMT. So what I'm thinking is that I haven't done this yet, but I'd like to try it. I just haven't had the opportunity, or maybe the motivation too is a good way to say it, to do this. But my idea is that if you can get yourself, if you can practice and get into the vibrational state easily, and then you go into a cave, a darkness cave, and incubate for 3 days, then you can start seeing the structure. Anybody, not just clairvoyant people, but anybody can look at things and see the higher level framework, and even the numbers. I mean, I've watched a couple of videos now where people who take DMT, I'm not sure how they take it, smoking it or something, maybe ayahuasca, I just don't know. But they can see the Grabovoi numbers on things. So the world doesn't work the way we think it does, but we're making some breakthroughs now to where you and I can learn how to phase. You and I can learn that we're not our bodies, and we can learn to get out of them and explore that realm, get comfortable with it, because it is a little daunting when it first happens to you. And it's really important that we do that, because there's something that's trying to take it away from us. And you can do your own research, but that Lisa Miron article, I'll put that up there again. This is a good book. Here's her picture. She's on Substack here, so you can go find her. I think it's called Lawyer Lisa. She's a lawyer here in Canada. And I don't think this is just applicable to Canadians. I think this is something that's happening worldwide. Oh, and I also if you look at human design, I watched a couple of videos yesterday, and I really didn't get what it's about exactly, except there's supposed to be some kind of a big thing going on in September of this year, the solar plexus mutation. And that sounds also very like it might tie into this, the solar plexus mutation. Anyway, I could probably sit here and talk about this stuff for a long time, but this is what I'm working on. And if you want to work on it, again, you have to find your own way. But I think that's part of the initiation, is that you can learn to get this power going. And the way I've been taught to do it, I've got these little, I guess I'll have to go back to the dollar store and get some more, but I do some visualization, but by and large I do mostly feeling. And if you are mostly into visualization rather than the visual things, there's another book by, this is by Father Francis Tissot, and he is on Facebook. But this book, you got to read this book. I recommend that you get this book, if you're going to read it, that you get the ebook, because there's no index. So if you want to find something later, I mean, I take notes and I scribble all over the books and fill their pages with coffee stains and things, so I have my own way of doing this, but this is a book that's worth spending some time in. If I'm from a liturgical Christian background, so Catholic and Anglican, so that just means that we get very serious in church, and it's not as celebratory as it is but the main thing is that there's a lot of doctrine that you have to get. It's not just about emotion, like if you go to a Pentecostal or a Spirit church where it's all about doing things in the Spirit. This is much more intellectual. So this book will tell you. I just would like to mention one kind of funny thing. Father Tissot has some videos too about resurrection. And sometimes the comments on YouTube are kind of funny, because he's looking at the Tibetan tradition, so what the Tibetans do to resurrect. And evidently it's a fairly common occurrence there, that people learn how to get into their rainbow body, and then they just leave their old body and it shrivels up. And there's some comments sometimes on these YouTubes that are like, but these people aren't Christians, how can they resurrect? So there's a little bit of less than charitable attitude towards other humans. And I think at some point, that's really one of the things that we've got to get over, is that humans are humans and we're all one. There's a part of us that's part of all humanity, and to separate yourself from that, it just doesn't do you and humanity a disservice. It actually inhibits your progress, because you're not seeing the world in a way that will lead to your ability to transmute yourself. You have to kind of see that any human is doing the best they can. Even if that human thinks that the best thing they can do is to kill some other poor guy, eventually you learn after many lifetimes that this is from Grigory Grabovoi, a Russian Kazakhstani clairvoyant that I study. Killing people to solve social problems is obsolete. It doesn't work. And you can't see that it doesn't work unless you get to a certain consciousness where you can understand more how this planet works and how your life works on this planet. So this is the Grigory Grabovoi book that is the one that tells you more about resurrection and eternal life. And again, this book is hard to read. It's translated from Russian by somebody who is not a native English speaker, and you can always tell there are little clues. Like, for example, he refers to people who have died as the gone, and of course that should be the departed. But the person who translated that did not know that we talk about the dearly departed, not the dearly gone. But so that makes it hard to read, but it is a good book if you can suffer through little things like that. So once again, thanks for listening. I hope this is useful to at least one person, and I'll be back when I feel like it. Cheers.